Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hello and welcome once again to Cheap Shot Entertainment. I am your host Luke and you are the Cheap Shot Nation, and we're finally at one of my very favourite pay-per-views, WrestleMania 17, from the Houston Astrodome in Houston, Texas on the 1st of April 2001. So as this video is released, it's been exactly 20 years since this pay-per-view, and I still get goosebumps watching this one. And just so happens that I managed to watch this with one of my best friends, the big boss Tom Priest, and he gave this one a very special award which we will deliver at the end of the video. So if you want to find out what that award is and what my thoughts are on this pay-per-view, this most awesome, tremendous pay-per-view from 2001, please join us for the main part of the video. So we start this show out with some Intercontinental Championship action. It is Y2J, Chris Jericho versus William Regal, and this one, what I expected a little bit, but these two guys have been battling throughout the year of 2001 so far, and they've had some of the most entertaining matches that I have seen in a wrestling ring, including the Duchess of Queensberry match, which I really appreciate because Jericho is awesome and William Regal is just fantastic all throughout, ripping into the fans, cheap heat, yes, but ultimately entertaining because he does it in a very English way, and I really appreciate that. And you know, considering he's from Blackpool of all places, that it just makes it really, really fun. Anyway, Y2J would pick up the win and the Intercontinental Championship on this occasion with a lion salt on William Regal. So nice quick opener here. I've given this one 2 cheap shots out of 5. These two have, like I say, they've given me some of the most entertainment that I've had from rewatching the 2001 pay-per-views, and they were allowed to have, you know, it wasn't a stinker by any means, but it was very quick, so that's the reason I've given it 2. It wasn't terrible, just wasn't great. I've seen better openers of WrestleMania. However, this gets better as we go along. So on to the second match of the night. It is Right to Censor versus Taz and the APA. Of course, Taz made his triumphant debut about a year and 3 months ago from when this pay-per-view was happening at the Royal Rumble 2000, and really impressed, and he would be triumphant in that debut over Kurt Angle, the man who had the greatest rookie year of any WWE superstar since then and before then, winning every major championship along the way, including at one point being the Intercontinental Champion and the European Champion at the same time. However, Taz and the APA would win this one over the Right to Censor, who've been a thorn in the side of many a superstar during the year 2000 and 2001. I really appreciate the Right to Censor. I think they had a very annoying character, and that is exactly what they were going for, and they did their job. It's just a shame that they started to fall apart at this point. You know, Stevie Richards, The Good Father, Paul Buchanan and Val Venus, along with Ivory, did start falling apart around about this time, and pretty much by a couple of months down the line you wouldn't see anything of the Right to Censor. So yeah, you could say that Bradshaw clotheslined them back to hell, because that's exactly how Taz and the APA won this one. A short but entertaining match as per usual, with the opening matches of cards during the 2000s and 2001s. I'm going to give this one the same rating as I gave Jericho and William Regal, and that is a 2 cheap shots out of 5. Again, this pay-per-view would get a lot better from here. You can't put all your beans out. I'm not sure where I was going with that analogy. Can't spill all your beans before making beans on toast. That even makes sense. And the third match of WrestleMania 17 from the Houston Astrodome was the Hardcore Championship, a championship that was red hot at this point. Literally, it was like a hot potato. It's like, oh, here you go, you have it. Oh, here you go, you have it. But this match is the reason that I invited the big boss, Tom Priest, to come and watch this pay-per-view with me, because, I mean, we did it over the airwaves, so to speak, so we weren't actually sat in the same room, considering he's in Crewe and I'm in Derby, and also we're in a national lockdown. So we did do this remotely, watching the pressing play at the same time whilst talking on the phone, and it works really well. It's a good way of watching wrestling with your mates, and it's nothing better than doing just that. This match was for the Hardcore Championship, and it featured Raven versus two of the biggest, strongest, most colossal performers WWE have ever had, The Big Show and Kane. So, Raven was just the filler in this giant sandwich, and he took a lot of brunt of the punishment in this one. And this match is great. It's great, it's fun. This is exactly what the Hardcore Championship used to bring to WWE. It was different. It was downright just like, whoa, at times, and it just made you wince at other times. I mean, Raven here, he goes through a plate glass window. Big Show and Kane have a King Kong versus Godzilla moment and crash through a wall. At one point they nearly take the power out to the whole building because Big Show he climbs on the back of the golf cart and Kane rams that off the road. No, Kane follows them actually. Big Show got his hands around Raven. I used that as a meme because it was funny, that's 2020 and me trying to get away. But this match, for all of its fun, would end with a very simple move, and that was an elbow drop. It was made a little bit better by the fact that Kane dropped the elbow off the stage onto the sort of set area and picked up the victory. Big Show had Raven on his back, Kane delivered the big boot and then the elbow, and Kane is your new Hardcore Champion. One of my favourite matches ever for the Hardcore Championship, and just so we're getting this straight, WWE, do a Hardcore Championship documentary, because that would be on replay on my WWE network, because it was great. What a championship, what a bunch of matches that we had during that time, and it's something that the 24/7 championship just can't reprise. I'm going to give this match 4 cheap shots out of 5. It's very well deserved, it was very well thought out and very well delivered. The guys never really, they started in the ring but they never really went back there. It was crazy, they battled all the way through. Like I say, there was that Godzilla moment which was fantastic. Very much worth watching this one if you're going to watch this with me. So you want to say you're picking WrestleMania matches to watch, with what we used to do when we could actually get into the same room together. We all used to pick a match. This one was always on the cards for a WrestleMania match because it is so much fun and it's great to watch with your mates. So really picking up the pace now, it is the European Championship on the line next. We've had no shortage of title matches already, and we're only 4 matches in. It is Test versus Eddie Guerrero, and should be said that the Radicals are kind of back together at this point. They're helping Triple H and Stone Cold and all that kind of stuff. And they're back after being split for a little while, and now they're back together. So Guerrero, after doing the whole Mamacita thing with China, has gone back to being heel, the best Eddie Guerrero could ever be, and he's going against Test for the European Championship. But it would be a title shot from the current champion after a distraction from Dean Malenko, who's also out at ringside, and I believe he was the light heavyweight championship. He was not the light heavyweight championship, literally. There wasn't anybody wearing him round their waist or anything, but he was the light heavyweight champion, and the Radicals were doing pretty well. Also in the same year you would find Perry Saturn trying to find Moppy. Interesting. Anyway, this match would end with the title shot to the head of Test as Malenko distracts the referee, and Guerrero would pick up the victory here over Test, the much larger Test, who would by the middle of the year become complete heel and everyone would hate him. But at this point in time, everybody loved him, and definitely a talent that was wasted in WWE thanks to his relationship with the McMahons. 2 cheap shots out of 5 for this one, and we're going to move on. That's 4 matches and 2 cheap shots out of 5. I need to prove my point with this pay-per-view being my favourite, and we're only going to get better from here. And speaking of getting better from here, what better than to move into the next match, where it's Kurt Angle versus nobody. And when I say nobody, it's Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. These two never fail to deliver as a pairing in the ring, outside the ring, cutting promos, you name it. Whatever people say about Chris Benoit, he was a complete arse for doing what he did, but in that squared circle he was really never bettered. And put him in the ring with Kurt Angle, you have a recipe for success. And every single pay-per-view, whether that's Insurrection or whatever, they just go up and up and up and up, and it's like the levels of an elevator. They always deliver. Like FedEx, Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle is always a winner, and they always deliver. Now, this match itself was just a straight out normal match. Now, these two have had like best 2 out of 3, ultimate submission matches, Olympic medals on pole match. These two were going at it for months, and it was brilliant. It was some of the best wrestling, some of the most entertaining wrestling that you will ever see. Just type it into the network, Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. Don't worry, they've not blurred out Chris Benoit's name. He was a massive part of the company at this point. He was also a massive dong. But these matches are great. Now, Kurt Angle would get one over on Chris Benoit in this match, because he would roll up Chris Benoit, hold the tights, and get the ultimate heel win. You know what? If the referee doesn't see it, then it never happened. And that's what we're going with here. Kurt Angle with the victory. He celebrates, whoa, as he does. Does the celebration, starts crying, drops to his knees, and all that kind of stuff. The Olympic gold medalist doing what the Olympic gold medalist does. Ultimate heel win. 3.5 cheap shots out of 5. Not the best that they've delivered on, but certainly not the worst either. We are really ramping up the entertainment factor at WrestleMania 17. So after the match, Benoit would attack Angle. He would be very, very angry, and then we would go into the WWF Women's Championship match, where Ivory, who's been tormenting China for many months, would go against China, the lady that she's been tormenting. Now, Ivory, very good professional women's wrestler. She has got multiple years of experience under her belt, or in this case, very long skirt and sometimes trousers with heels.
I didn't get that. Could you?
Go away, Siri. Sorry about that. I'm getting distracted by Siri. Where was I going? Oh yeah, Ivory. She is a very good women's wrestler. China has always been on the side of the men's wrestling, and she's never really been on the women's side because she was so big and strong and muscular and all that, and she always held her own. So there was only ever going to be one winner in this match, and that was going to be China, and that is exactly how it would be. However, they did tell a story over several months with China doing her back in and her neck, injuring her neck. So Ivory would go straight for that injured neck at the beginning of the match. It wouldn't take long for China to get back on top with the Gorilla Press Slam, dropping Ivory on her face for the win. We get a new women's champion. But of course it wasn't that much longer until China would actually leave the company due to her ex-boyfriend's relationship with Stephanie McMahon, and it was just proving too much for her to handle at the time, which is how we got One Night in China. And at this point I would like to say thank you very much Triple H for that. My eyes will never be the same again. Now I'm going to give this one cheap shot out of 5 because women's wrestling at this time wasn't great. This match could have been something a little bit better than it was, and it wasn't, simply because they weren't given a lot of time. It was a massive mismatch, but it did have the ultimate payoff, and that was China getting her own back on the lady who'd been tormenting her for so blinking long. So yeah, that is my final verdict on that match. Let's move on to something more entertaining. So we move on to one of the best matches that I've ever seen in a WrestleMania ring, and it's by two part-time wrestlers, one who was about 50 at this point in time and the other one his son. It is Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon, the owner of WCW versus the owner of the WWF. This really was the spiritual start of the whole invasion angle. You've got Shane McMahon signing the contract and picking up the documents for WCW on the last ever Nitro just before this happened. And if you want to see my review of that, please do go over to the channel because I'm doing everything in order, and that was an integral part of this storyline as a whole. So, who else to referee a no disqualification match than the man himself, the three faces of Foley? It is Mick Foley, dressed in his referee's outfit with sprayed on stripes. Love it. Mick Foley, always great to see him in a wrestling ring, even though he was retired a year previous. But you did get, Commissioner Foley and all that kind of stuff. He was great. So this match doesn't take long for it to spill outside, doesn't take long for Vince McMahon to spill blood either, and Shane McMahon, being the younger and the fitter of the two, just beating the snot out of his dad. I mean, it's 2001, it's WWF, these things can happen. And of course, one integral part of this storyline was that Vince McMahon was asking for a divorce from his wife Linda, and he drugged her up. So she was currently in a wheelchair, and he was having an affair with Trish Stratus, who he made bark like a dog. Yes, that particular bit is no longer on the network. I wonder why. But ultimately the payoff here would be Linda kicking Vince McMahon in the grapefruits and Trish Stratus slapping Vince McMahon across the face as Stephanie is out there with her dad as well. Trish Stratus chases Stephanie out of the building from ringside, and this would Shane had gone through the table at this point in time as all of this stuff is going off. The bins then come into play. Shane McMahon sets his dad up in the corner for the coast to coast, puts him in the bin, and just goes coast to coast, and that is your finish for this one. Shane really good at this point in time. He had lots of big matches and he was known for doing the big spots, and he continued doing that right into his 20s, 30s, 40s, and he's still going now. He's still thereabouts, and had the big match with The Undertaker. I think that was at WrestleMania 32. And he was just great all the way through. I love Shane McMahon. I've got one of his shirts upstairs. I'm so glad he came back, because I've always wanted one of those shirts and never could get one. But yeah, the ultimate payoff here is Shane McMahon getting retribution for his dad being an arse, and Linda getting retribution by kicking him in the grapefruits, and Trish getting retribution over Vince McMahon by slapping him in the face and chasing Stephanie out of the building. Shane picks up the victory at this point, and I would say, like I said before, this is the match that kickstarts the invasion. Maybe people will be disagreeing with me on that, but if you do, leave us a comment in the comments section down below. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 cheap shots out of 5, because it is a very good match, but ultimately not the best match on the card. Two sort of no disqualification matches on one card. It was really evenly spread. I mean, this was a time when WrestleMania wasn't 16, 17 days long, and it was just a normal sort of 3-4 hour pay-per-view. And there's something I miss about the tightness of the setup here. You know, massive stage with the original design. At least they still do that with WrestleMania these days. But there's something missing about the atmosphere when you're inside an Astrodome or something like that, and it just brings back loads of memories of the old school WrestleManias, which we would lose from sort of WrestleMania 22, 23 and go to the outdoors. But yeah, ultimately this match was very, very good. So the next match at WrestleMania 17 would be one of the best divisions in the world of wrestling at the time, and that would be the WWF Tag Team division, and this match was for the WWF Tag Team Championship. It is the very famous TLC match at WrestleMania 17. I think this is actually TLC 2. But it's the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian, and being the great competitors that they are, Edge and Christian would absolutely not dominate this one, but use their time wisely and pick their spot in order to pick up the win on this one. Edge and Christian win yet another ladder match, another TLC match. These two are absolutely great, and I was really upset, even at the time when these two split up and went their separate ways, because Edge and Christian, 5-second pose, was some of the best and most entertaining wrestling and vignettes and backstage promos that I've ever seen. And when they introduced Kurt Angle into the mix, you have 141 and 2/3 chance of winning. Much like Edge and Christian. I'm going to give this one 4 cheap shots out of 5. This match was absolutely insane. Jeff Hardy jumping off a massive ladder, crashing through the table. Jeff Hardy being speared off the tiles, holding on to them by Edge. All sorts of things went off in this match. Bubba Ray going through about 4 different tables on the outside, and just these 6 guys just putting their bodies on the line in the name of sports entertainment, and it's ultimately very satisfying and very, very much appreciated. One of the best matches that I've ever seen, and this is why WrestleMania 17 is one of my favourite pay-per-views. It's because of the variety of matches that were on offer in this one. I would very much recommend watching this match if you've never seen it, because they are experts at crafting a match that uses both ladders, chairs and tables. And it was fun because it was something that you don't get to see all the time. And it was used in a relevant way. Unlike now, we get a pay-per-view called TLC and we're never getting a TLC match, or it's just chucked in because it's a title match. It doesn't really mean much. But this match, fantastic. And then, just as I say this pay-per-view is getting better, we get the gimmick Battle Royal. Good payoff at the end though, and Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan of course on commentary, which is always great because I love Mean Gene, and I love Bobby Heenan with his wit and his ability to deliver promos at the drop of a hat. So in this match you would get the Bushwhackers, that is Luke and Butch, Duke the Dumpster Droese, Iron Sheik, The Goon, Doink the Clown, Kamala, Repo Man, Jim Cornette for some reason, Nikolai Volkov, who never got to sing the national anthem, Michael P.S. Hayes, the one-man gang who would turn into Hakeem, the African Dream, eventually, the Gobbledygooker, who last appeared at the Survivor Series, Tugboat, of course, one half of the Natural Disasters as Typhoon, and also the very famous Shockmaster, just in case you didn't know, with the spangly Stormtrooper helmet. Hillbilly Jim, who delivered one of the longest acceptance speeches in Hall of Fame history, you know what I mean. And Sergeant Slaughter would be in this match. I would give this match 2 out of 5. It was great for nostalgia reasons, and the Iron Sheik would pick up the victory, which was ultimately very, very satisfying because he destroyed the American scum of Sergeant Slaughter, who would then be really heelish and put him in a Cobra Clutch, which wasn't very cool. But the right person won this one, and that is the Iron Sheik, and I'm sticking to it. 2 cheap shots out of 5. So we're looking at the penultimate match of WrestleMania 17 now, and it is The Undertaker versus Triple H, which featured one of the longest referee knockouts that I've ever seen in a wrestling ring or a wrestling match, because this match never really got started. Referee got taken out nice and early. It wasn't an ODQ match, but these two just battled all the way through the crowd, all the way through the arena. The Undertaker got busted open. Triple H tries to follow up but gets caught with a last ride, and that hits this time. No, the last ride that hits this time and takes the victory. And this is all happening on the outside of the ring, and they battle up to where the TV cameras are and the computer area, and it's just a scaffold there. They did a very similar spot with The Miz versus Shane McMahon a couple of years ago at WrestleMania, but this time it was Triple H getting the last ride off the platforms through tables and then taking him to the ring to finish. So this was an absolute brawl. Again, another match that is very worthy of your time, with The Undertaker being the American Badass at this point in time, one of my favourite iterations of The Undertaker. And again, I'm going to get some backlash from that, but if you don't like it, leave me a comment, because I'm sticking to that one. I really like the American Badass Undertaker, and he had some of the best music ever. And speaking of which, I do have a point to make about the last match, because I have a theory that should be taken seriously. So this was an absolute brawl from start to finish, and I'm going to give this one 4.5 cheap shots out of 5. Possibly the best match on the card besides the main event, but I will get to my score on that one very soon because it doesn't quite get the same score as this one, although it's very, very close. And so we go into the final match, the main event match that everybody's been waiting for. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the current WWF champion, The Rock. And this one is a bit of a brawl. Before the match starts, Howard Finkel, who is the announcer at this point, announces that it's going to be a no DQ match, much to the surprise of good old JR. The crowd is absolutely raucous. Bearing in mind we're in Houston, Texas, as soon as that glass shatters, everyone's like, whoa! You know, the fact that they've still got energy by this point is nothing short of amazing. And yeah, I'd quite like to go to a Texas WrestleMania based on that, but not sure I actually want to go to Texas. Just one of those things. If we do a Texas WrestleMania somewhere else, like Florida, so I can get sun and go on rides, that'd be great. Anyway, this one is contained on my phone because I haven't transferred it over. So if I look down, it's because I'm on my phone, and it's really, really annoying that I haven't managed to transfer it over yet. So like I say, the crowd is absolutely raucous with this one. Stone Cold on top from the very start, sending The Rock to the outside as they fight in the crowd. I mean, no DQ, why not? Why not go in the crowd? It's the People's Champion versus, you know, the champion of the people, so to speak. I mean, it's great storytelling. They get back in the ring eventually, and Stone Cold is on top for most of this match. I mean, there's a couple of face shines in this one, and it's always hard to depict this one because you usually get some establishment as to who's the heel and who's the face. But because both of these superstars are liked, enjoyed, Austin being the more heelish of the two, and both having heel and face sort of tendencies, it's established fairly early on, if you're in the know, that Stone Cold is going to be the more aggressive heel in this match. Austin takes the pad off the turnbuckle, and that is the point where you know that Austin, not only does he really want to win this championship, but he's also going to be the heel of the night. So The Rock comes back with a shine moment as Austin goes to the outside, and the timekeeper's table gets close to Austin's head. And by close, I mean The Rock uses it to bust the Austin open, I think, at this point. The referee, distraction, and the bell to the head. The Rock has been lacerated. No, the Stone Cold gets busted open later on. It's The Rock that gets busted open early on in the match with that referee distraction, because, you know, like I say, Austin is very much the heel on this one. The Rock goes through a table, Stone Cold taking measured shots now as the match progresses, and both men losing steam. The Rock comes back to a chorus of boos. I mean, booing the People's Champion but cheering Stone Cold. I mean, I suppose it's the same. It does split down the middle a bit further down the line, and Austin is straight back on top with the piston-like right hand and the measured strikes again. Austin smells blood at this point, punishes the People's Champion rather, and Austin gives attention to the referee as The Rock explodes out of the corner and makes another small comeback. The Rock gets the ring bell. Austin gets busted open on the turnbuckle that he exposed. So now you're really seeing the heel tendencies and the daftness of Austin's work in this match. It's not daft, it's just like, you know, that's what a heel would do. He would remove the turnbuckle, then accidentally run into his own trap, you know. Austin comes back and they're fighting on the outside again. The Rock gets into the ring, The Rock into the ring post from Stone Cold, and that would bring the People's Champion down. Stone Cold Stunner is blocked into a sharpshooter. This is very much shades of WrestleMania 13 against Bret Hart, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever. And if I was ever going to put a top 10 WrestleMania matches together, Rock Austin from WrestleMania 17 would be on there, but so would Austin versus Bret Hart as well. And Bret Hart would actually feature in quite a few of those matches. Austin gets a sharpshooter locked in on the Rock in a reversal move, and the Rock bridges out. Austin's focus is now on the leg of the People's Champion. It's a bit weird, but I mean, Austin doesn't really have any leg moves, but there's a focus there because obviously if the Rock takes out the if Stone Cold takes out the Rock's legs, he can't really do the Rock Bottom because he has to lift Austin up. Austin back to his roots with the Cobra Clutch. The Rock scores with a stunner and a near fall. Vince comes out at this point. So who's he going to side with? My money was on the Rock at this point because Stone Cold was always his arch nemesis, and the Rock has actually been the people or the corporate champion back in the day. The Rock with a spine buster of his own after Stone Cold nailed his spine buster and drops the people's elbow. Well, Vince breaks up the count. So yeah, Vince really sort of making people wonder at this point, and it's a great swerve moment and something I'd really like to recreate in my own wrestling persona during my time with Aspire Wrestling Alliance. Hebner takes a dive at this point with Vince chasing the Rock chasing Vince all the way around the ring, only to be caught by Austin into a Rock Bomb. Hebner takes a dive, reverses the stunner, low blow by Austin. Vince gives Austin the chair. Vince hits the Rock with the chair, near fall as Vince sends the ref back in. Austin with the chair, the Rock Bomb. Vince distracts the ref and gets brought into the ring. Stunner on the Rock and another near fall. And this is why I'm going to give my eventual score on this one. Vince hands the chair to Austin. The Rock once again gets Austin once again gets the near fall. Austin assaults the Rock, really angry at this point, assaults the Rock with the chair, smacking him in the gut with the end of the chair, smacking him over the back with the chair, and we have a new champ as the Rock just cannot kick out of that one. Because Austin just wore down the People's Champion enough to pick up that victory. So, the handshake heard around the world. Austin and Vince McMahon shake hands. Austin has finally sold his soul for the WWF Championship, and JR whines on as he does. What has he done? What has he done? Why, Austin? Why? Austin drinks a beer, shares it with Vince, and I'm going to give this one 4 cheap shots out of 5, and this is why. Too many false finishes in this one for me. Having an appreciation of the power of a finishing move. You know, Austin hits a stunner, he hits a Rock Bottom, he hits the Rock with the chair, the Rock just kicks out. Now this is good for a normal match, but for this one, I think that took away from the story that was being told here. Obviously the Rock's never going to give up, and JR does a great job of selling that fact, but yeah, I still get goosebumps with this one. This match in particular, I get goosebumps from this, and every time I watch it, I'm just so happy that I'm watching that match. And unfortunately, the Big Boss couldn't join me for watching that one, but this pay-per-view gets a special award from the Big Boss. So that was everything that happened at WrestleMania 17, good 20 years ago from this date that the video is being released. One of my favourite WrestleManias, also one of the Big Boss's favourite WrestleManias, and we now get a Big Boss seal of approval for WrestleMania 17. Also, check out Big Boss's Big Boss Book Club podcast on all of your favourite podcasting networks, including Spotify and Google Podcasts. Really getting some momentum with that. It's going to be featuring yours truly talking about the invasion angle, so check that out, as well as the Talk Is Cheap podcast featuring Ben from Squared Circle Jobbers as we give our predictions for WWE pay-per-views of the modern day. Now that is everything. You are the Cheap Shot Nation. If you've enjoyed this video, do check out my other retro reviews. There's plenty of them. We're going through the year 2001 and I'd like to see you on that journey. So once again, I will see you again next time. Until then, take care of yourselves and goodbye.
Hiya.